Hello people of the internet, welcome back. In this video, by popular demand from my last survey, I'm going to be talking about the ethics of curing disabilities. So my background, if you watch my channel you'll know this, is I refer to it as mild autism. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome years ago, but now they've changed it so everything's under autism spectrum disorder. But I don't have an intellectual disability, so I consider myself as having mild autism, even though that's not really a clinical term. I'm also profoundly deaf, and I use a cochlear implant in one ear, and I have a hearing aid in the other ear, but I'm not wearing it at the moment. So this is kind of from my perspective, and the reason that I'm making this video is a few weeks ago I was getting loads and loads of information about on my social media about a clinical study that has restored hearing in a specific deaf toddler as part of a clinical trial. This isn't meant to be like criticism of the family or like me judging this family or anything like that. You know, that's not my place. And also this topic came up in a conversation with my mum yesterday, so I thought better make this video just discussing my things, my views on it and everything. And this isn't like a definitive this is right, this is wrong. I'm really open to hearing other people's opinions, but this is just kind of my perspective. So my initial feelings when I saw this news article was a bit like, not sure about that. And I wasn't really sure kind of why. I'm not sure whether it was kind of me being jealous because I can't get my hearing back. I lost my hearing, so I was born with hearing and then lost it. I'm not sure if it's because of the the potential risk of doing a clinical trial on a child. Yeah, so my kind of view, how I've discussed this kind of with myself, is that where medical treatment kind of crosses the line into being like trying to create like a designer baby or making everyone perfect, is kind of, in my view, it's a medical treatment if you are treating a disease or something, and I define a disease as something that causes suffering or pain or death due to the condition itself. And the effects of the condition on the body and the mind of the person. And I would say a difference, which I think shouldn't necessarily be cured, but maybe we should work on the societal aspects, would be that any suffering that may be present comes from like other people and society being inaccessible. Like, for example, if someone's being bullied, or places not providing access. And I'd say the society has a duty to treat diseases and accept and accommodate differences. So in my case, I would say that for me, the vertigo and balance issues that come along with my hearing loss are a disease, and I would want that fixed. I would say anxiety is a disease that I have, and I take medication for it. I would say migraine, I get migraines. I would say that is a disease that I would want treatment for because they are painful and cause issues in themselves. Same with anxiety, it's distressing, it's not good, I don't like it. And vertigo, you know, if you feel like you're gonna puke because the ceiling's spinning, that's not great. I would say having a hearing loss in itself, I think a lot of the effects of that can be mitigated by society and other things other than medical technology, and that my autism, for me, is more of like a difference, and the effects from it mostly come from other people rather than the condition itself. Obviously, things like that are very different, and I think my perspective as someone who's lost their hearing is different from someone that was born with that or lost their hearing very young, because I've had something that I've kind of lost. So I think in my situation, if I could regain my hearing back, I would definitely consider it. the other aspect of this, which I think is interesting to discuss, is the ethics of using children in clinical trials, and if it's acceptable for children to undergo any sort of invasive treatment as part of a clinical trial, or any treatment that has risks. I would say that yes, that is ethical if the treatment aims to prolong the life of the child or avoid suffering due to a disease where no established treatment would provide an appropriate outcome. So for example, if a child is very sick and there's no medication already out there that is effective for that condition, but a clinical trial might help them, that's great. You should 100% go for that. Obviously, I'm not telling you what to do, but I would recommend, I think that that's the ethical decision in that point, in that situation. However, if it's for something that we've already got an established treatment for and there are risks with the clinical trial, I would maybe hold off. I'm not sure if it's ethical. Maybe you should try on adults first, people that can consent, because obviously the children, it's the parents consenting, not the children. And if it's not to improve the, prolong the life or stop the child from suffering, then I think a clinical trial might not be the best thing to do. For example, if the child is just deaf, that's not necessarily going to make the child suffer. There are many people who are deaf and are very, very happy. But if you cause that child to have a really painful ear because of this treatment, then in my view, you've made them worse. So there's always risks with things like that. Yes, so that's kind of my view on this. And I think if an adult wants to change something about themselves to align with a societal norm, even if it's not causing any sort of harm or suffering to them, then they should be able to do that. Like, if someone wants plastic surgery, go ahead, you know. If you're an adult and you understand the risks and everything, if you've got something you don't like about yourself, maybe try and see if you can work through that emotionally and, you know, make sure that an invasive treatment's the right thing for you. But if you want to, like, you know, I don't think it's my place to stop anyone. That's, you know, like if someone's like, oh, I really want a boob job because they just think that they like the look of having bigger boobs better, I would say go for it. You know, as long as it's the right thing for you. But I don't think parents should do it to their children. And the narrative that I really don't like is the idea that they're protecting their children from being bullied, or like, oh, you need to have this fixed because they're going to be bullied for it. And I think that's really treating the wrong issue, because I think in order for children to learn to accept other people, they need to actually encounter people who are different. And that attitude in general towards bullying and disability and differences needs to be a lot more accepting, and trying to make children look normal or act normal to fit in with society and stop them being bullied is probably not that helpful. I would also argue that it's acceptable to use like if you're using technology and it's not invasive, I would say, for example, hearing aids, things like that, a wheelchair, that's not, like, that's a bit different because that's just an addition. It's not like interfering with the actual body. It's just like another thing that you can use that might help you. And I would also argue, so my next kind of point would be, I don't think a society with fewer deviations from the norm is better. I think diversity provides value to a society, and as I've written here, it enriches the human experience. I think in the same way that different languages, different cultures, different worldviews and ways of thinking, they all encourage innovation, and I think having disabilities and visible differences is a part of that, because I think it's very easy to value kind of cultural diversity but not see, because that's kind of seen, I don't know, that's becoming more accepted these days. You know, people value diversity, but maybe people see for example, being deaf, not as a form of diversity, but just as like, oh, poor you, that's so unfortunate. Well, you'd never say, oh, poor you, you live in England and English isn't your first language, oh, poor you. Like, you know, we say, oh, that's interesting, you know, I don't know. That's kind of my view. It's not very well articulated, but, you know, leave your personal views in the comments. As long as they're not really mean, just try and phrase it nicely. I would also say, yeah, so many differences are not passed down from the parents. So, for example, your sexual orientation, sometimes deafness, things like Down syndrome, autism. You know, some of these do have a genetic component, like if the parents are deaf, the child is more likely to be deaf than hearing parents, but most deaf children are born to hearing parents. Same with autism, there is some heritability there, but it's not 100%. And who should decide what is right for those children? Should it be the parents of those children, or should it be from people from the communities that that child is part of? So I would say there are pros and cons for both. I would say the pros for the parents making decisions for their own children is that they know the child best and they want to act in the best interests of that particular child. And the cons of the parents is that they don't necessarily understand the identity that that child is part of, and they may not want to listen to people who have that identity. Not always, this is very general. And the community, they will know the identity the best and they can educate the parents, but they don't know the individual child. They may be very hostile and judgmental towards the parents, which I think I've seen this especially with the deaf community and parents who choose cochlear implants for their children. I feel like there is a lot of hostility towards that. And they want to act maybe more in the best interest of the community rather than that specific child. Yes. So I think there's a lot of aspects to this, and I would love to hear different people's viewpoints because it's such a complex topic and there's not really a right or wrong answer. It's so like nuanced is the word. Yeah. So I'd really love to hear different people's views on this. Please don't make this about that specific child in that news report, or make it judgmental towards specific people. I kind of want to talk about these topics more in general, rather than it seeming like I'm judging specific people. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!